Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Thrive Co-Living Communities YouTube podcast. I'm Mark Stein, Thrive founder and your podcast host. We're creating sustainable, inclusive, and multi-generational residential communities from repurposed big box stores or other unused buildings. By offering unique and ecological co-living options, our aim is to combat the epidemic of isolation, revitalize communities, and help others discover the many benefits of engaged community living. In this podcast series, join us as we discuss co-living and other aspects of our concept, in addition to bringing you interesting people who are doing cool things from around the world. Through this podcast, learn more about our concept and see how Thrive co-living communities will bring together people from all walks of life. To find more about us, visit www.thrivecolivingcommunities.org. Thanks for watching and enjoy the podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Thrive Co-Living Communities podcast here on YouTube. Glad to have you here and glad to have my guest, Patty Stubkjaer, here with me today. And she is the owner of Tangerine Dreams Grove in North Florida. So Patty, thanks so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So let's talk about it. And why don't we start with the type of tangerine? You have a specific, would it be species?
Yes, I do actually. This variety of citrus has its own species. It's of Chinese origin and brought over in the late 1800s and kind of took root in the southern, a little belt that goes from southern Georgia, Alabama, across North Florida to Mississippi, and was farmed really heavily in the early 1900s. In the 1920s, there was a lot of established groves, and with the railroad available, they were shipping the fruit up north, and so there was a big business. They actually, in the Jackson County where my grove is located, the grove owners designated themselves as the Satsuma capital of the world. A little grandiosity there. And they actually had the Satsuma festival with the queen, but it didn't end well when it's a cold hardy fruit, and it will take quite a bit of cold. But once it gets down to like below the teens, the low teens and below, the fruit's at risk. And what happened is they had them several years in a row, hard freezes several years in a row, and the trees just didn't take it. We also have some techniques these days that we know about that they didn't. We have an irrigation system that when we know, and we have weather forecasts, so when we know that it's going to freeze, we put the water on them and we let the trunks of the tree ice down, and that keeps the temperature at the core of the tree steady. And so we turn the trees into tree popsicles, and it looks funny, but it actually protects the trees from freeze damage. Back then, they would use a smudge pot, like the black pots. I don't know if you ever lived in South Florida, but it was common. I know when I was growing up, 50s and 60s, if there was a freeze, the grove owners were out there putting out the smudge pots, trying to keep the trees. But it was also a Depression era, and there was no money to replant them, and they just kind of went out of. They didn't go extinct, obviously, but they weren't renewed. And only in the last decade or two, it's come back to the attention of grove owners that the variety does well in that cold hardy, those cold hardy belts. So I planted mine in, I got the idea around 2010. I bought some land that is right up where I grew up is in the rural part of Cottondale, Florida. And my brother had an opportunity to buy back, I think he's got 40, 50 acres of what was originally the homestead property for our double great grandfather. And he has the original deed to the property. So there was about 2 or 3 years later, another piece of it, of the same old homestead, went back on sale. And at the time I was in the workforce, and I really didn't know what I would do with it, but I kind of love the idea that it's where my family settled to, and they dug rocks out of this property and cut down trees, and all without machinery, and turned this plot of land into something to make a living on. And then it even got divided amongst my father's, my grandfathers, to for 20 or 40 acres each. And they were able to raise a family on that land. And that just appealed to me. And so I bought the property, and I remember the satsuma tree that we used to have on the side of the house when I was a kid. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if I planted some of those trees? And I had the idea that I would just plant the trees, and they would just grow nice. And in a few years, they'd have some satsumas, and then I would just sell the satsumas. And I had no clue how much work was involved in growing those trees. I got them from the nursery, and they were about a foot high. And the year I got them from the nursery, I ordered them almost 2 years in advance. I had to take delivery because he had to get them out of his greenhouse. But that year, it froze and dumped rain, and then froze and dumped rain. And it was either mud or ice that entire winter into spring, all the way up to May. I missed the opportunity to put them in the ground. So they spent another year in pots in my brother's truck shed. We turned I had no plans for farming. I mean, I didn't have any equipment. I didn't own anything to manage the ins and outs of growing. But my brother had a truck shed that was empty. So we took the roof off the truck shed and we replaced it with that clear plexiglass roofing. So we made a greenhouse, and we took the 200 trees and put them in his garage. And that's where they spent the next year until the next spring when I put them in the ground. By then it was 2013. So they went in the ground, they were already almost 3 years old. So I had a little bit of a head start, but they were still maybe like 1.5 feet high. And they were just so much trouble. The bugs were at them from the get-go. It was like the bugs flew over and put tied little napkins around their neck and took out their forks and knives and said, whoopee, and just ate all the leaves off of, just ate up the leaves. And we figured out how to get rid of them. Then the next year, something was eating them, but I didn't know what. And I noticed that along the leaves, there was a lot of what looked like bird droppings. And I thought, with that, first I thought, oh, the birds are really flying over here. As it turned out, it was a caterpillar that emulates the appearance of bird droppings. It's called a yellow dog caterpillar. And they proceeded to eat as much of the leaves as they could. And so I thought, well, I'm going to have to smush all these caterpillars. And there were obviously 200 trees with 2 or 3 on each tree. And so after I identified them, I went to Google and I looked them up, getting ready to just pick the things off and smush them. And on the same page with the caterpillar, there was a picture of this beautiful black butterfly called the giant swallowtail butterfly. And as it turns out, those caterpillars that look like bird poop turned in the most gorgeous butterflies. And I just couldn't smush them. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I took a bucket and I walked along the trees and I picked caterpillars. So then I had a bucket full of caterpillars just to get them off my trees and nothing to do with them. So my granddaughter was going to FSU and I had been there and stayed at this beautiful kind of resort golf course that had the hotel with it and just beautifully landscaped. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take these caterpillars to this beautiful place where they can be free and the landscapers for the condo can figure out what to do about them. So I carried a bucket of caterpillars and I sprinkled them all around the hedges of the golf resort. So I still think about the next season, the tourists must have just been intrigued by how many beautiful butterflies there were all around the property. So that was the caterpillar story. And then there was a couple of freezes. I told you how we turned them into popsicles, which is years are going by. It's good that it saves the tree, but it causes the branches to get heavy and the branches break. So I end up having to prune all the branches. And they made enough fruit for the neighborhood. I could just invite the neighbors and friends to just come and you pick. And I did a couple of farmers markets, which I loved. I've never done selling of any sort. And I didn't just have the assumption I wasn't good at it. But I found that selling something that you have love for is easy because the fruit is so good. It's such a good product. And so at the farmer's market, I found I was just talking my head off. I was just, people would come by and we'd get into chit chats and I remember those from Christmas time. We used to have those. And so I really love doing that, but it's a lot of work.
Talk a little bit about the fruit itself, if you had one in your hand, or if I did, and there's a very small window when they're ripe and ready to be picked. Tell us about that. But unless you have one with
I
you,
wish. I wish.
I think it's
They're
early, but
they
describe it for
are
us.
just turning yellow. They're just getting a little bit. I was there last week, and they're just getting little blotches of yellow. They do ripen on the tree, and you don't have to put gas on them or anything like they do some of the other oranges to make them turn. They turn that beautiful red orange color. They're first of all, they're sweet. They're known for being the sweetest variety of citrus. So that's one of the things that people love them for. And then they peel, like the peel just falls off of them. You don't have to like dig and dig that pulp off of them. They peel, and here's this beautiful fruit, and they have virtually no seeds, and they're not a hybrid. It's a species, so that's unusual. Most of the tangerines that you'll get from California, they're hybrid, which means that they can't they don't like bees. When you're growing a hybrid, you don't want them to cross pollinate with other varieties.
Right.
So to keep them seedless, they have to net them, separate them off. And my grove, the bees just have a heyday. We love bees. Actually, I have beekeepers who come and bring the hives and get some, not this year, but in prior years. So the fruit is just this perfect little delicious fruit. And the history of it in those years in the South is Dad would bring home a big box of them, and they would sit by the fireplace during the Christmas holidays, and we just come and go and pick them out and munch on them. And other people have told me they would get them in the bottom of their Christmas stocking. And, there'd be a bowl of them or just around the community. They stayed as a backyard variety all that time. And so selling this particular variety of fruit is different. It's different than a citrus grower. And my business is different than a commercial grove. It's a hands-on, owner-operated, truly farm business, cottage business. It truly is in every sense of the word. I pick the fruit. I wash the fruit. I sort them out by sizes and get the best ones. And then I put them in little cellophane wraps, and I put tissue paper in the box. And if they want to send to Aunt Sue, I have cardstock, and I put it in my printer, and I print their message out I print the Christmas card and say, from Jack, Judy, and the kids, and put them in there. And so each box is it's kind of its little product in itself. It's not like set the boxes out and go through like assembly line and drop the fruit in there. So it's like my signature on the boxes. And over the course of I have to pre-sell them because there's this little window of time that they're ripe. You don't
And
want to
what's that
sell them
window?
early because you'll get they're not as sweet. So you want to get them just to the point where they're sweet, but not for too long on the tree. So I work my fanny off. I work 20 almost like 24/7 for like 2 to 3 weeks, and I get all those orders out, but every single order has my hands on it. And it's getting to be a lot. It's getting to be a lot. I have, over the course of, oh, I forgot to tell you, we had a hurricane in the midst of all of this. So I was marketing my online gift boxes for a year or two, and Hurricane Michael came and just trashed my fruit and my trees. So that year's fruit was a throwaway. All the pre-orders, I had to just give them back their money because I had nothing. It beat the heck out of the fruit. And the following year wasn't much. We had to cut them back. So they came back. So I had 2 more years. I had a year or two and then a gap, and now 2 more years. But the people who find me come back. So I give them this little status during the year and pictures of the trees. So I've just put out the second email and with a picture of the tree with I told you how they're green with little blotches of orange. I'll go, here's the trees, here's what your fruit looks like now. And yeah, I know some of their family, because I send to their family and they'll tell me, oh, my grandson, he's going to FSU. So it's sweet. There's just a sweetness to it. There's a sweetness to the fruit. There's a sweetness to the business. And I like it. So when people say, like, we have recently got a financial planner because my husband's about to retire, and we're going through like what our assets are. And he said, oh, that's wonderful. You own an orange grove. And I said, well, okay, well, it's really not it's not a big cash producer. As a matter of fact, my goal is like to break even and have some change. And then he said, well, what did you, and I thought he was about to say, what possessed you? And so I had to explain the backstory that I just bumbled my way into this operation that I'm retired. I'm waiting on my husband to retire. I retired 5 years ahead of him. So it keeps me off the streets, it keeps me busy. And I've learned everything I know about growing fruit by doing it wrong and adjusting the next year. And every time I think that there can't possibly be anything else that I could do wrong, I do it and then have to go back the next year. Some of it, Mother Nature with the hurricane took that, and the freezes when I've actually had to prune back. But they look great, and they're so I'm kind of a tree mom. It's like I look after them, and during
You
the
sell
year.
everything in gift baskets or boxes, or do you sell some to wholesalers?
This will be the first year that I've had, well, actually last year, I had a big enough crop last year that I knew I had enough of a crop to sell to a packing house, but I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know, how do you find somebody to buy them? And I did find some contacts, but it turned out that in order to do that, I needed a USDA or a Florida Department of Agriculture inspection of the grove. And that's important to packing houses, the chain of command. I didn't have that. And by the time I learned there was such a thing, it was too late to get it. So I donated a crop. I sent my gift boxes, which probably takes about 5 to 10 trees. And then there's like 180 more trees that are loaded down with fruit. So it turned out to be a good year for food pantry, food share. And I also learned something that there are actually organizations that one of them, I'll plug them, is Society of St. Andrews. And they coordinate donations from farms and any place that bulk foods can come from. And they actually get together teams of people to go and pick them. And they call it gleaning. So they glean the fields after harvest and they put that food together, and they actually know who has trucks and who has pantries. And they were just charming. So I donated 3,500 pounds of fruit to Food Share, and learned about that in the process. So this year I got my inspection, my Florida Department of Agriculture, and I now have a packing house that wants to buy the rest of my leftover crop, and I have a hauler. And so that's all. We don't know when. They're going to decide when they want to come and pick, and they'll do several different pickings. So I'll make a little money on selling the bulk fruit. But that, with this small of an operation, that's spare change. It's not fruit farmers don't do that well. That's why people don't farm like I'm doing that. You have to have some niche like organic lettuce crops, or it's this small of a piece of. I might add that I have this whole property is 22 acres, and my grove takes up 2. So the rest of the property, I have a farmer in the area, and he plants peanuts and soybeans. He rotates them, and he plants on part of it is wetland in the back, with a lot of ruined trees back there now since the hurricane took them down. Can't even think about what we're going to do about those trees. Some of them are heartbreaking. It's like these huge hardwood trees, like just in the ground.
So you mentioned in an earlier conversation that we had that you were hoping to bring back the variety in a bigger way, and are working with some farmers to try to do that. You know, your area, I'm from central Georgia originally, Columbus,
Yes.
Georgia, on the Alabama coast, and from near where Jimmy Carter's from. So we certainly have a rich tradition in that area for peanuts. And I'm also really familiar with Vidalia onions. That is a delicacy. And then of course, peaches,
pecans,
in the whole central part of Georgia and Alabama. So I think you probably have some information available to you from those different types of farmers on how to promote them. And so where are you with that challenge?
Yes, there actually is. There are in my county 2 or 3 established groves. By the time they're 10 years old, they're basically they're a mature tree. And so there's 2 or 3 growers that have trees that are older than mine, and they've been dealing with the marketing of them. And they've started to build an association to get the growers together to do marketing as a team, actually to try to qualify for some grants for funding for marketing, and they're having some success with that. It's called the Cold Hardy Citrus Association. So we're getting together a little lobbying and resource sharing, but that's new. I think that's only about 2 years old. One of the growers has a contract with the state of Florida for the lunchrooms, so which are great. These fruit are great for lunchrooms. Like the kids love them.
Yeah.
I've had people at the markets, farmers markets, go, "Oh, my kids won't eat fruit." I give them one of them, and they go, "Mom, can we get some more of those?" Because they're like sugar. They're like
Sure.
they're like sweet. So he's got the cafeteria lunchroom, and he's got his own packing house. He's actually he's one resource that I could probably sell to if I courted that relationship. But there's the grower that I am selling my crop to. He's called the Florida Georgia citrus, and he's in Monticello, Florida, like really kind of in that little tri-state area where the Florida, Georgia, Alabama come together.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll see the brand. I think we'll see the variety come to more attention over the next few years. And I am so amazed at the support that we get from the University of Florida, the IFAS department of the University of Florida. They do a lot of with the citrus in the South that they've really been through the ringer with citrus disease that took down a lot of their trees. But the University of Florida is right now helping develop cultivars that are resistant to this disease. And they have grants available that some of the big groves that lost their trees can actually get some help in replanting. I enjoy that, getting together with other growers, because I talk about my fruit and people like zone out after a while. So I like an opportunity to talk about my grove.
You can learn a little bit other than from your mistakes.
Yes,
from their mistakes.
Yes, from their mistakes, and help them not to make some of the ones that I made. So it's kind of a cooperative spirit, and although I'm sure we'll compete at some point in time. And there are a lot of newly planted groves. A lot of people, since we got ours to a producing point, have gotten the idea that it would be a great cash crop. There are a lot of young groves that are, like 3-year-old, 5-year-old, that aren't producing yet, both in Georgia and in Florida. So I think over the next few years, there'll be a lot more of them in the market. I think we'll make our presence in the market.
Mm-hmm. Do you have kids? Do you have kids that are interested in taking over someday?
No, that's a joke too. I make them all come and visit the grove. We're having Thanksgiving, and I'm setting up the Thanksgiving at my farm shed with canopies to do family Thanksgiving. They it's a novelty to them, but they're right now. I've got a social worker, a physicist, and a probably math major coming along, and then I've got another one in high school that she's deaf disabled. So I don't know what her. I kind of would like to see the Grove become producing, and whatever the proceeds of it go to my my granddaughter. She's in Minneapolis, so I don't get to see her very often. But I don't know family wise what's going to be done with it. But I joke with them, all right, you're going to be saddled with this mess. You better figure out what to do with it. It's, I'm getting old here, but
who knows? You may plant, pardon the pun, you may plant a seed like somebody did with you, because you weren't in any headspace to take this on, and you just got attracted to it. So maybe serendipity will take over and somebody will get the bug.
Yeah, maybe. So many things happen that way that you just is a whim, but then it like kind of grows a little bit, and then once you notice it, something else comes along, and things just come together to make it happen. That could very well be. But right now, they're proud of it, and they're proud of me, and they come and they drive the buggy around, and they pick some fruit, and we have a great time, and then they go on back to college. I don't know where all of that will end up, but it is family property, and I would like to see it stay. We bought it back, so I would like to see it stay. We used to find this land used to be hunted by the Native Americans on that property. Before, we used to find arrowheads all over. The row croppers would plow the fields up, and we'd go out there and goof around, and we were always finding arrowheads. People went out with bows and arrows and shot their food, and then, like I said, my family came in with the farming concept, and scrapped out a living off of it. And now I don't know where things are going. Sometimes I get to thinking, I worry about what their world's going to be like, and at least they could grow some food, if things really got bad, they could always go back there and plant some turnips or something and get along. But that's pretty much the story. I like it. I do it because I like it. I like the people who buy. They usually have some emotional connection. There are people who don't know anything about it, that just they see the pretty picture and they'll order, but a lot of them, I just sent my marketing email list of 170 people that over the course of the years they bought, and that's my biggest marketing.
So tell me when the season is approximately.
From Thanksgiving to Christmas. They ripen just about, I think they're going to ripen a little early. I'm going back on the 15th of November. So yeah, from the 15th of November to the 31st of December, we'll get like the early ones and get the boxes out. Then the pickers can come and take the rest. And then I do the U pickers. They just, by the end of the season, you just want to get what's left off the trees. So I just say, for $5, bring a bucket and take as much as you want, get them off the trees.
Right.
So Thanksgiving to Christmas is a holiday crop. is what it
That's why
is.
they ended up in our stockings, right?
Yeah, so that's the reason. That's
Do you
the
have
reason.
do you have any aspiration to add to it other varieties? Pecans, or at least in a little further north in Florida, are really big. Do you
Yes.
have any desire to diversify a little bit?
Um, I did in the beginning when I first got them planted, and they were just so cool. Those, and I have a lot of property there, and I thought about it, and then as hurdle after hurdle to get them grown now to be 8 years old, I don't know if I want to do that again. So I've it's in my mind, and I know that I can get a lot of support from the both from IFAS and from the Florida Department of Agriculture is really encouraging people to plant. So, but I'm also I'm getting old. I mean, I'm 71 years old, and I'm doing this manual labor. I mean, I work hard. That's my fitness program. So, so I don't know how much longer I want to do it. So that's in my mind. Pecans, I love, and I would love to plant pecans, but they don't mature. You don't get a crop for almost 20 years with pecans. They don't. I'll be in the nursing home. I don't know about that.
I don't know if you keep working that fruit as much as you are, you may stay spry into your hundreds.
We may. It's a really nice way to, I don't jog, and I don't ride an exercise bicycle, but yeah, there's no end to walking and plugging and pruning and stretching and hauling, and so yeah, it's good for that. And I think everybody ought to have something that they love. I mean, I had a long career as was a database programmer, and had a lot of projects that I was very proud of, and but in the end, it wasn't good. It had, things had changed. It was in the healthcare field, and IT was changing, and it was just a constant rat race, more to do expected than you could do well. And so I was glad to get out of that. But I did have some great years doing that. But this is, do something you love. Even if it's on the side, because I always love to grow things.
So as we're winding up here, give us the website, Tangerine Dreams, plural, Grove. Be sure to put that S in there. Yeah. And then go to pre-order. So here are your boxes. Talk a little bit about them here.
Oh, okay. Yes, I have some people that are just satsuma lovers, and they don't want anything fancy. They just want a box of satsumas, as many as I can fit in the box. So okay. I call that one the Satsuma Lovers box.
Got it.
And then I have the Florida Sunshine box, and that one I fancy up a little bit. I put I put them in tissue paper, and I have put little candies and tea and just all these goodies go in the box with those. That's the one on the left, and I didn't have the picture of the box, but I pretty that box up. And then on the right, I have one so everybody can buy it. It's $37, and it's in the 3 to 5 pounds, depending on how many fruit. Each year is different, how big the fruit are and how much they weigh, but the same box. And I put the candies and the tea and the candy sticks and tissue paper in there. And that's the one that I print a special message. So if you want to send something to grandma, I can put in, "We love you so much, grandma," or what, I can put any message on there. So call it a little love. Everybody needs a little love. And I've drilled it down to just 3 products. I did have a lot of other options, but those are the ones that seem to fit the needs of the people who order. And then toward the end of the season, I do have one other thing that I put toward the end of the season, and that's the Not So Pretties. And I think I put them last year for like $35, and that's the field run, what's left on the trees, and actually people who know the field run are the sweetest, because the longer they stay on the trees, the sweeter they get. But they might have little scratches here and there, a little browning on the peel. So they're not the most beautiful. The ones on here, those I specially pick. I pick through what's coming off the trees to make sure that they don't have scars and scrapes on them.
Does this include shipping, these prices?
Yes, I'm including shipping in those prices.
Great. Okay. Anything
Oh,
else?
and I might add,
yes, that's
any of them.
Anything else
but
that you haven't shared?
in particular, the little love box, I have some customers who ordered those for clients. And it's a great gift. It just makes a perfect gift. And so I've sent as many as a dozen at a time for a realtor who just wanted to get something out for Christmas, for the holiday season, with her company name on it. And she sent me the cards to go with it. So that's a really nice, it's a really nice gift. It's pretty and it's sweet, and it kind of shows a lot of love with it. So it's well named. So if you do have any viewers that are thinking about something to send out, we'll make you look really nice with that.
Let's see. Here's some from the Grove. Is there a picture of the Grove as it is? Oh, here we go.
Yeah, a few.
Yep.
You can see the babies. I did a little blogging when I first set up the website. I love doing that, but I haven't found the time to do it since. But you can see what they look like when I first planted them.
Yeah.
And what they look like a year or two ago.
Nice. Let's see. Let me look for your email address here.
Okay, that's going to be down at the bottom.
Okay. So here's your phone number, 727-412-5489.
Right.
And okay, so you live in Gulfport, Florida, which is in the Tampa Bay area.
Right.
And here's the email address, sales at Tangerine Dreams Grove. It's a mouthful.
It is. I didn't think of that when I picked the name.
Right. Okay, let me stop sharing the screen and come back to you. Anything else that you want to share?
I don't know. I can't think of anything. I pretty much tell my story on the site.
It's not that I know anything that you should be saying that you're not. I'm just giving you a chance to finish up. Well, this has been really fun and rich.
It has.
I thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is what we like to do with Thrive, is support people that are doing really cool things. And especially, it's clear that you have your heart in this. So people with passions we love to talk to and explore those passions, as well as business ideas. And this was both. And
Yes, thanks.
and then people that have certain expertise. We've have a former CIA agent
Oh,
uh,
my.
that is sort of a regular on the podcast and sharing all sorts of stories. So that's really, really rich as well. So
Yeah.
please invite
One of the,
people, and I would
yeah.
invite the people in the audience to either submit somebody that you think would be interesting to interview, or volunteer yourself and contact me at mark@thrivecolivingcommunities.org. Also a mouthful. You were going to say?
I was going to say that I really love mentoring young women. And as a woman-owned business, um, please, if anybody's interested in starting a business, a women-owned business, I would love to hear from them and share any experience that I can and encourage women to do the dream. Just,
Get your hands
if
dirty
you dream
like you
about
are.
it, jump in, because the worst you can do is quit. I mean, yeah, and you might just find you fall in love with it.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much. And
You bet.
thanks to everybody for tuning in. We're here about every other week, but it looks like weekly to you as an audience, because we're putting things out regularly. So Patty, thanks so much.
Thank you.
And I hope a lot of people will jump on this and treat their loved ones or clients. That's a great idea for the holidays with the gift box.
Thanks.
All right. See you next time, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for joining us for another great episode of the Thrive Co-Living Communities YouTube podcast. To learn more about our mission and how you can support our vision of creating co-living communities worldwide, please visit us at thrivecolivingcommunities.org. To receive advanced viewings of our podcast and other exclusive content, find us on Patreon at patreon.com/Thrive Co-Living Communities. You can also learn more ways to support our mission in the show notes below. Amazon Smile, GoFundMe, Kroger, and our own Thrive Gear store, where you can buy t-shirts, hats, and many other items. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.